Got to bring in Fox NBA analyst Slick Rick the Bucher, but Acho, you have an issue with Draymond saying he's never going to change?
God, I have a huge issue with it. The reason I have a huge issue with Draymond saying he's never going to change is because that's to assume that, Draymond, you can't get better. Like, I understand you have 3 championships. You could have had 4 if, I don't know, you didn't get suspended from Game 5, 2016 NBA Finals for hitting LeBron James. You could have had more championships. You could always improve. That's what frustrates me about Draymond Green. It's as though because he knows he is good and has cemented to some degree his legacy in NBA history, he can't be better. Relationally, yes, somebody can do a whole bunch of good things, but there is always room for improvement. Draymond, if you did not get another flagrant and thus get thrown out of that game because of the flagrant 2, then the Warriors wouldn't have been in such a predicament to have to win the game by 1 point without their best defensive player on the floor when John Moran is trying to drive to end the game. So I'm frustrated by it because it sounds like complacency. And here's why I'm frustrated by it. Because I am Andre Iguodala. What do I mean by that? No, not I'm Nigerian. Though I am. I'm Andre Iguodala. If you remember, after Draymond is celebrating, you'll see through the corner of your camera, Iggy is trying to tell Draymond, hey, big dog, chill out. Probably for several reasons. Maybe because, maybe they'll rescind it from a flagrant 2 to a flagrant 1. But watch closely now at the end of the game. Draymond hyping everybody up as though he played the last half of the game. He didn't. He's hyping all his boys up. Then you see Iguodala walk up to him like, hey, big dog, let's talk. Let's talk. Let's rap.
Chill.
Like that was dumb what you did. Draymond ain't having none of it. Now, Draymond, as great as you are and as much as you've accomplished, remember, Iguodala's a NBA Finals MVP talking to you right there. So who am I? I'm truly Andre Iguodala. Draymond is great, but I also understand he could be better.
All right, we edited the response. We said that Draymond Green said he's never going to change. He said, I'm never going to change the way I play basketball. Now, so we have to parse this out.
What are you saying?
I would take issue with Draymond. Why are you bringing it on yourself, skipping off the floor? That's Antonio Brown-esque skipping off the field. You might have an issue on the sideline, but when you make a spectacle of yourself, now you're taking it too far. And I'm sure, to your point, Acho, that's exactly what Iggy was talking to him about. But if we're talking about what he did that resulted in the flagrant fouls, I'm with him. He has to play with an edge. He has to have that intimidation factor. And for the most part, it has worked because he's been able to intimidate not just certain other players, but the referees. Because in general, look, first round with Nikola Jokic, he was pulling all kinds of tricks to get under Jokic's skin and got away with it. Was very demonstrative anytime they did try to call him on something. He's been demonstrative these whole playoffs. For the most part, has not been called on it. And have we asked Pat Beverly to change the way he plays the game? Have we asked PJ Tucker to change the way he plays the game? They all have a certain irritant aspect to the way they play that is vital to them. And for where Draymond Green is right now and against these young Memphis Grizzlies, it is more important than ever that he have that edge and he tried to impose that intimidation factor. All the other stuff, the extraneous stuff, what he's going to say on his podcast or the way he skipped off the floor, I'm with you, Acho. You don't need that, and you're only bringing more on you. But as far as the way he played, I get it. He got caught this time, and I think the referees were sending a message early on, we're not going to do this. And technically, hit him in the head, that's a flagrant 1. And then you yank him on the jersey. That's not a basketball play. That's another flagrant 1. Flagrant 1 and flagrant 1 ends up to flagrant 2. I get why he got tossed. But what he was attempting to do in terms of intimidate Brandon Clark, I understand why he did it, and I think it's part of the Draymond Green formula.
I'm closer to you, Slick, on this one right here. I have an issue, but not issues, not a big issue with Draymond. Look, Draymond's mental makeup is real, and we all can see it's pretty transparent. He knows that what makes him at times will break him, which is, I'm going to live close to the edge. As we used to say in football, I play to the echo of the whistle. Rodney Harrison comes to mind. That means, hey, everything I do comes with a message. And I think a lot of times, especially like in these moments, we talk about how it hurts Draymond Green. Like it hurt him in 2016, as Acho brought up, when that punch or that kick got him kicked out and they could have won that championship. But Acho, if they would have won that championship, then they may not have won 3 championships because KD wouldn't come if they would have won. And then KD's not there. Who knows if they would have continued winning? A lot of hypotheticals here. But let's talk about how the reputation helps Draymond Green, because people don't talk enough about this, and I'm here to help you as a former player. When you have one of those reputations of being a guy close to the edge, reputation of being physical, guess what the referees already expect? Physicality. Let's go to a Baltimore-Pittsburgh Steelers game. They not calling that game the same as they are a Chargers-Chiefs game. They looking like, yo, these boys about to go act a fool and be in the alley. Holler at me when y'all come back, and then I might throw a flag. I think Draymond Green has benefited tremendously by his reputation of being physical. It's just every now and then, Draymond Green is going to have to get a little slap on the wrist or something greater. But all things considered, I think Draymond Green is absolutely correct in terms of this is the way I play. I play greater than the sum of my parts. I'm not the biggest, I'm not the fastest, and I'm not the strongest. But guess what? It adds up to something greater because I play with that edge.
Do y'all realize that Draymond never changing has kept the Warriors from being known as the greatest basketball team ever?
Let's hear it.
Like, y'all do realize that, right? The 73-win Warriors outpaced the 72-win Bulls over the course of the regular season. If the 73-win Warriors go on to win that title, and for the most part, you can assume they would have based upon what they had done with Draymond present, if they go on to win that title with Draymond, they are unequivocally, undisputed, the greatest basketball team we've ever seen based off the empirical data. Now, some arbitrary fan might try to argue, well, they weren't as good as the Bulls, to which you just say, well, they had more wins as the Bulls. Well, they weren't as good as the Bulls, to which you would just say, well, they beat LeBron James en route to winning a title. Well, they weren't as good as the Bulls. Okay, keep your little fanciful obsession with the 96, 97, 98 Bulls to yourselves. Because the data would support that they are undisputed the greatest basketball team ever. But Draymond. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is, why we always got to keep saying, but Draymond? Slick, I'm with you. As far as Draymond Green, right, it makes him him. But what's more important, your edge or your presence? I love Draymond Green's edge, but the problem is his edge has made him absent far too many times. So while I'm obsessed with a player playing with an edge, I would rather have your presence than your edge any day of the week.
I think that's fair, Acho, but you're focusing on one incident and one situation. And as we played the video there, I'm like, really? In the finals? He got suspended a game for that? Like, I still question that. That also wasn't the only element that kept the Warriors from winning that series, or should I say the Cavs coming back and winning that series. Andrew Bogut went down with an injury. Andre Iguodala was dealing with a hamstring. Steph Curry was dealing with a sprained knee. I'd like to think that if Draymond Green hadn't been suspended for a game, that they would have won the series, but that wasn't the only factor there. To say, hey, they would have won another championship or they would have won that championship, and therefore they would have been considered the greatest team ever. I'm not mad at you for posing that possibility if they had won it, but the fact of the matter is Draymond Green getting kicked out wasn't the only reason why the Cavs made the comeback in that series. Here's the other part. For all of the other success that Draymond Green listed, all of that is a result of him playing that edge. And I mentioned with this series in particular, the Memphis Grizzlies, he needs it more than ever. Because as you guys talked about earlier in the show, like these or Marcellus did, reference the fact that these aren't the same Golden State Warriors of 4 years ago when they were running for championships. He's an older Draymond Green, and he's dealing with a Brandon Clark, because that's the Grizzly that he pulled down. Like, Clark is just, there's no strategy with him. With Jokic, you can take a cerebral approach and break down his game. Brandon Clark's got a quick leap. He's a young dude. and he's got a real great instinct for rebounding. So getting him off of the offensive boards, keeping him off the boards in general, is just work. And Draymond Green at this point can't match him athletically. So what do I need to do? I need to intimidate him just a little bit. Maybe I can take a fraction of a second off of his response when he goes up if he thinks, oh, am I going down? Am I going to get hit? What's going to happen? That's where Draymond Green is playing the game, because he has to play the game against these Memphis Grizzlies that way. And so going back to the original question, like, he's not going to change the way he played basketball in game one, and I'm not mad at him for it, because I think it's the only way that he can neutralize a player like Brandon Clark.
Yeah, it just reminds me of when I got drafted, and then everybody looks at you differently because you just made it or got some money. And then there's always that group of people who made it or finally reached their goals. Like, I ain't gonna change. I'm like, dog, what? I moved so fast, so far. As soon as I got a $5, I'm out. Didn't mean I changed me at the core, but I make micro decisions that are different, and some of them may be macro, and it's okay. Draymond, don't fight growth, bruh. Don't fight the growth. Like, it's okay. Don't fight that part. Let it come with it. But Slick made a great point. Draymond, it doesn't seem like it's calculus anymore. It seems like simple math. We use this in sports. When you couldn't touch somebody on the field, we had to touch them up. Basically, if he was too damn good, too damn fast, too damn young, whatever, put some hands on him and we'll see how he responds. And Draymond Green's at that stage in his career. He's maniacal. Like, it's okay. I think if I were more maniacal, mindless, and wild and just physical like that, I would have been a better player. I ain't lying. I think Draymond needs to be applauded for most of what he's doing. Now, here's a little history lesson for my boy Acho, because we can't talk Draymond without talking Warriors, obviously, but then the Warriors turn into KD, and then it turned into a step. Here we go. They wouldn't have been the best team ever winning those 73 games. Let me remind you of a couple of things. One, in the finals, they played Matthew Dellavedova and LeBron James and Kyrie Irving for one game, and no Kevin Love. Let's leave that alone. They went 15-9 in that playoff run. The next year, the KD team was better. They won 67 games, but they went 16-1 in the playoffs. Nobody was touching those boys when they activated playoff time. Just had to get that off my chest.